Welcome to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that puts you right in the heart of women's hockey. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and each week I'm on a mission to showcase the incredible women who are lighting up the ice across the globe. Get ready as I chat with rising stars, seasoned pros, and all the game changers making waves in the world of women's hockey that you won't find anywhere else. So, let's dive into the exciting world of women's hockey and make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. Welcome back to Rinkside Rundown. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by Alexa Vasko, a forward and newest member of the Ottawa Charge. Alexa, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastically. Thank you. Yeah, it's always great to be able to connect with the members of the new Ottawa Charge. So you are the newest member. So let's dive in and let's learn a little bit more about you. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Perfect. A natural starting point and a place that I always like to go first is learning what it was about hockey that drew you to the sport, kind of your origin story. Like, what was it about hockey that you fell in love with?
Well, funny story. I didn't really start with hockey. When I was younger, I was a super active kid, and my parents threw me in gymnastics and soccer. So I did that. I mean, it wasn't very organized, just kids running everywhere. So I was doing gymnastics, soccer, and then I remember my dad would just take me to the rink and he was playing old timers. Again, not super organized, just going out with the boys, and I would just watch. And my mom would come too and watch me, and then I guess just from there I saw, hey, I want to be like my dad, sort of put him on a pedestal there, and I saw him playing, and the next thing I knew, I think it was my grandparents' friends. I was in his backyard on those two blades that have the plastic ones. So I don't even know if they make those now, but there's like a picture of me with this mushroom helmet and I'm just gliding. But that was my first time in a backyard. I was on a backyard rink. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to be like my dad. And then from there, I had to make a choice at that age between gymnastics and hockey because they were both winter sports. So I decided to stick with hockey, still playing soccer at that point. At that point, I'm like 6 years old now. But yeah, I started playing house league with the boys and then just made my way up from there. But yeah, I would say soccer and hockey were definitely my main sports.
So what was it about hockey specifically that you really like? Were there specific things about hockey that you just loved so much, or was it the influence of family?
Um, I would say a mixture of both. I mean, I come from a pretty heavy hockey family. My dad played hockey. My grandpa's brother, so my great uncle, he actually played for the Chicago Blackhawks and won a cup back in, I think it was 60 or 61. So he played for Chicago and the Minnesota North Stars way back then for a while. So hockey's sort of always been in our blood, but so is soccer, right? So I played both at a really high level. And I think about hockey starting out, it was only me and I think a couple other, maybe one or two girls on a team full of boys. And I just loved being competitive with them. And it wasn't hitting at the time, but I'm a pretty physical player now. So I just loved going out there and competing with the boys. And honestly, sometimes being better than the boys. Like I sort of wore that as a badge of honor, and I always wanted to win. So if I could beat the boys, and I remember my first year of I think house league with the boys, I think we won, and I was like, okay, let's do this again, Dad. So then I just kept playing and playing, and now I fell in love. So
Do you think that there were some, maybe it's, let's combine the sports, soccer, gymnastics, hockey. Do you think there were some of those, like, what do you think you were able to take from your time in gymnastics, in soccer, and maybe bring to your approach to hockey?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know even learning throughout school, learning throughout just personal playing every sport. I played every sport possible, and I know there's a lot of research going on to make kids play as many sports as possible and, like, don't specialize super early. I'm a huge advocate for that. I played badminton, like, I played literally everything, so I think a big thing there is sort of playing every single sport you can, and I mean, pulling from gymnastics, like, the coordination there, the balance, the upper body strength. I love doing the uneven bars. Like that was one of my favorite things. So the upper body strength there. And then with soccer, I mean, you're running for 90 minutes. So, I mean, I don't run for 90 minutes now because I'm done with soccer. But when I was in peak soccer shape, like I had pretty good cardio. And even now, like to this day, I was just on the ice like 2 hours ago. I'm comfortable with receiving passes in my feet because I can just kick them up to my skate. So, I mean, some of the skills aren't directly transferable, but I just say being athletic and being durable that way across all sports is just, I'm a huge advocate for that.
Yeah, and I think it's underrated, right? Like you said, there are so many. The more sports you can do, the more you are able to take those pieces. Able, even if it's just something like off the playing field, right? Like maybe it's just how you prep for a game, your mentality going into those games, or going into practice, how you practice, all those sorts of things. Do you think though, like that, like maybe some of the off ice or off the pitch, off, out of the gym, those sorts of things. Do you think some of those things also were transferable to you as a hockey player that you continue to use even now as your career continues?
Oh, for sure. I was actually just thinking about that when you mentioned that. I think there was a point in time where, again, hockey and soccer were my main ones, and I had to make a decision because when I was training for hockey, in the winter, there was soccer training in the winter, and then vice versa. When I was in peak soccer season, we had off ice training for hockey, and um, there was several years, I would say 5, 6 years, where I had to be super disciplined with my schedule. I'd go to soccer and then hockey and then had to eat in the car and just all that. So I really don't think I would be as disciplined as I am now if I didn't have not the scheduling issues, but just I was so busy and then you have to be on time. Like if if you're not 5, 10 minutes early, you're late. Like you need to be there for the coaches. And I just think being super organized and disciplined, you had to have those character traits if you wanted to play so many sports. And then you get into like tactics, like being a leader on the field, you can be a leader on the ice and vice versa. So really, I just think they intertwine so much.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, you had mentioned having to make the decision ultimately, are you going to choose, hockey full time? Or are you going to be able to continue all of these, gymnastics, soccer? What's going to be number one for you? Well, ultimately, obviously, quite clearly, you chose hockey. But I want to know, what went into specifically the decision to be a forward, or was it what's often the case, which is that especially for girls, you're rotating through different positions because that's just the way that the system works in terms of players and all those sorts of things. Was it always forward or bust, or did you have another position where you're like, oh, I really like that one, but fine, I'll score goals or something?
Um, I would say back in house league when I started playing with the boys, I don't know if there was really designated positions. I think we were just everywhere. Definitely not goalie. We had to rotate for goalie. And I got scored on a couple times and I cried and I was out of there. Like there was, but I do love, like if we play road hockey or something, I love being goalie. So I just did not like it. So there was on the ice. So that was not a no for me. And then I think just my dad being a forward, um, I just became a forward, and you know what? I didn't really like skating backwards. I liked being in the mix, sort of literally just flying everywhere. And again, I don't even think I had a choice. I think my dad just threw me out there, but it fit with, and especially with my style of play now. Couldn't imagine going defense right now, so I think it worked out.
Yeah, I always mention that I played goal. So it was interesting that you shared about the goalie on ice versus the goalie in road hockey, because much like you, I love goalie. Absolutely. I'm much more defense. I can't score a goal to save my life. But goalie in road hockey is so much, I'm going to say easier than goalie in hockey, because
It's so much more fun. I think it's
it's
much more fun.
absolutely, I agree. I went down in one butterfly in ice hockey as a goalie, and I could not for the life of me get back up. So I played the rest of that period in the butterfly because I couldn't get back up. So but in road hockey, it's because I can't skate. I should probably have prefaced by saying that, which is also why I played defense, because I would just be in my own end. I would never skate up, because if I skated up, just like you said, I can barely skate forwards. Don't even try to get me to skate backwards. It was just like, that's a skill in and of itself. So that's kind of why I ended up not playing hockey, and just living vicariously through players like you. So you had mentioned earlier on, obviously family has been a huge impact on you, specifically when it comes to, I mean, let's say more broadly, obviously sports, but
Yeah.
specifically hockey. Um, this is a question that I always really love asking, because, it does take a village to make hockey dreams happen, right? Like
Mhm.
hockey, I mean, any sport really, there's such a time investment. It isn't just financial investment, but with hockey, there's also the financial investment, right?
Mhm.
So when you think about your career, what has it meant to you to have that support from your family, and for your family to be, your number one supporters, just so enthusiastic about your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cliche, but I wouldn't be where I am today without them. I mean, I think about all the driving all over Ontario that they did. Um, like on a weekday, on a Tuesday, I would have a game in Milton, and then they would work the next day. And then now getting older and sort of getting into my routine, I think, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine driving to Milton on a 7 p.m. Tuesday night and then having to work at 8 a.m. the next morning. And but that's what they did, right? Because I played hockey and I didn't really think that they couldn't do it. I just assumed, oh, my parents will drive me. But now I'm an adult and I realize, holy, that must have been super tough. So again, drove me everywhere. And like you said, financially, hockey is not a cheap sport. And I mean, at that age, you're not getting equipment deals, you're not getting endorsements, and it's an expensive sport from a league standpoint. If you want to play, I played for the minor hockey St. Catharines Chaos back then, and then I played for Stony Creek um, my midget and junior years. And again, financially, wouldn't be able to do it without them. And you know what? The support too from my younger sister. She's 22 now, but I mean, she had soccer and hockey she had to go to as well. So my parents would just split up. One of my parents would take me, the other one would take my younger sister Olivia, and it was just yin and yang, like back and forth. Um, and I think about that now again as an adult, and I honestly think I would go crazy. But you know what? They did it, and it really sparked my dream. Again, I wouldn't be where I am without them. And I think too, this year being able to see them experience this as a whole. I was fortunate enough to be in Toronto, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're taking the GO train down!" Like they were so excited. They take the GO train down, see it, go out for a drink after because they took the GO train. So then they would GO train back, and my grandfather, like I mentioned, is super into hockey, and it was super cute too. He would take the GO train down with my family, and he went to the Scotiabank game. He went to all the sold out games, and my grandfather loved it. So this year was a huge family affair, and I'm so happy that they were finally able to see it at this stage. So yeah, I'm super grateful.
Yeah, and you know, not to jump too far ahead, obviously we have a ton of PWHL, Toronto, and now Ottawa conversation to have shortly. But I also I wanted to know a little bit more. Like you shared a little bit about um, what it meant to have them be able to, you know, hit the GO train and just go down and like they didn't have to drive hours or all those sorts of things, and having your grandfather at your games. When it comes to that and being able to see, like, know that you're playing a game and your family is there and you're playing at the highest level in a professional league that's widely viewed as such an incredible step for women's hockey. What did that specifically, like, again, hitting the ice, playing in front of them professionally, what did that mean to you?
Honestly, I think it's sort of like a pinch me moment, right? I mean, there've been a couple instances where it's like throughout the stages of my career, there's been a couple instances where it's like, okay, like I finally made it. I remember um like my first world championships at U18. Like my family and my grandfather came over. It was in the Czech Republic, and standing on the line for the anthem, it's like, okay, like I made it. And then my first collegiate game was after that, and it's okay, okay, I made it. And then I graduated to the U22 national team. It's like, okay, I made it. And then finally being on the blue line at Mattamy January 1st. The lights were off, and we didn't know there was going to be strobe lights, and I mean it was packed, and you could like sort of see down the line that we were sort of getting emotional, and then it was like, okay, we finally did it. And I mean, I'm fortunate enough, I played 1 year in the PWHPA, but there's some women who have fought and fought and fought for us. So it's awesome to have my family there and them being able to experience it. They went to Scotiabank, they went to the Bell Center, but also to be able to do it for the women who are still playing that came before us, and then the women who are now broadcasting that are now watching. It's funny, like now it's the moment. It's like, oh, okay, we did it.
Yeah, and it's difficult not to have a giant smile. And obviously, you have a giant smile on your face. I have a giant smile on your face, and I know that, or on my face, and I know that anyone listening, watching, is just like, this is a huge moment for women's hockey. And I think, you know, to be able to reflect on that, to know that family was there right from the start, encouraging you, and now being able to see you live your dream in a league, and we're going to get into the PWHPA in a moment, but in a league that quite clearly there's a very different structure in the PWHL. And I think obviously fan buy-in and all those sorts of things is definitely something that's encouraging for the future of women's hockey. And you know, when you speaking of, you know, the PWHPA, you know, which is one of the challenges that women's hockey has had throughout its growth, is, you know, what are some of the maybe the challenges that you've had, either that can be personally or professionally, throughout your career, and how did those challenges, whatever they may have been, whether they were on ice, folding league, you know, all those different things, and not just with the PWHPA, but just like anything throughout your career, how did those help you to grow both on and off the ice?
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways I could answer this. You touched there on the PWHPA sort of folding a few years back. And again, like I mentioned, I graduated college. Oh gosh, I think 2022. So I only played 1 year there, and you know what? I was still I loved it. I was playing with the women that I watched on TV, and I was on Team Sonnet. I was playing with Hillary Knight. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. But we also knew there was a bigger picture there, right? I loved it, but I also knew in the back of everyone's mind that okay, this is a stepping stone. So there was that league sort of folding, but then I would say from a sort of more personal standpoint, I would say one of the biggest challenges that I've had to overcome sort of throughout my career and my career going forward would be definitely more mental for me. Always from a younger age, in college, and just being an elite athlete in general, um, we expect excellence from ourselves all the time in every avenue, whether it's sports, school. Like I always wanted to have the best grades. We just want excellence all the time, and that can be sometimes a little bit draining. We just want to be perfect. Like we're perfectionists. There's no way around that. And if we go back to hockey and take that personality, um, whenever I thought I had a bad game, actually had a bad game, um, I would just beat myself down completely. Um, and I think it goes for all elite athletes. We're super hard on ourselves because we just want to be the best at our craft, right? So um, throughout college, I would say I was pretty hard on myself. Again, would beat myself down after a game if I thought I didn't play well. And it would sort of strip my confidence away. Some days, honestly, didn't even find hockey fun. Like I didn't even want to go to the rink because I was still looking back on that game. I was just beating myself down. And so it would affect my confidence. It would affect my mental health. It would give me performance anxiety, generalized anxiety. And again, like I said, sometimes I didn't even want to go to the rink, and I'm fine with admitting that. And back in college, like you have friends and stuff, and you're wondering if they're as hard on themselves as you are with yourself. But I knew I wanted to get to here, right? So I was always just so hard on myself. But then I sort of realized, okay, I don't think this is the right way to go about it. So I've been working with a sports psych, which has been really helping me. And she sort of mentioned, okay, she phrased this question to me like, okay, the golden rule, like, okay, so how do you like to treat others? And I was like, well, I want to treat others how I would like to be treated. So I treat others kind, with respect and everything. And then she sort of phrased this question that has stuck with me to this day. And it was like, okay, you treat others how you want to be treated. You're kind to them, you respect them. Why don't you treat yourself like you treat others? So that has sort of stuck with me. So it's like, why don't I give myself a little more grace? Why am I not kinder with myself? Like, we're human. Even though we're professional athletes, we're gonna make mistakes. It happens. There's some days where I don't feel great, but I still have to go out there. So, um, again, why wouldn't you treat yourself like you treat others? So, I would definitely recommend, like, even like if for me, I was just so hard on myself, beating myself down. And again, it would just snowball to so many greater issues where, again, sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like playing hockey today. So definitely, I would definitely recommend, like, if people are struggling with confidence, generalized anxiety, performance anxiety, being hard on yourself, how to reflect, like, I would definitely highly recommend talking to someone or a sports psych because you know what? They gave me resources that I still use to this day in the PWHL. And again, we have really good resources in the PWHL. But going back to my college days, those I was there for 5 years. I really relied on this person, and they really helped me get through it. And I think that's a huge reason why I'm here today.
And I love that, and thank you for saying that because I love that kind of answer because I think obviously it shares a little bit more of the side of you that side of a player that people may not necessarily know. They just see the goals, the assists, the points, the save percentage, all those different things that you see on a score sheet. but they don't see that, there are going to be days as an elite athlete that you're just not, you're like, oh man, I just don't want to do this. Like, I'm so hard on myself. Like, I missed that shot the other day, or I should have blocked that shot and that would have stopped that goal. It was an overtime
Mhm.
winner, all those sorts of things. How do you, if we could fast forward just a little bit to where you are right now, how do you think that continued work with your sports psychologist, like, how has that helped you in maybe the transition from the PWHPA now to the PWHL? And obviously, it was a fantastic first season, but there's, especially as someone who was a part of the PWHPA, there's always that, is this finally the chance? Is this finally going to be something for us? How has that support translated to your time now in the PWHL and helped you to be the player that you are right now?
Yeah, I think the transition from the PWHPA to the PWHL, there was a sense of the unknown, right? And people who are overthinkers like myself, who expect excellence, who are an elite athlete, don't necessarily do well with the fear of the unknown, because we're very schedule oriented and everything. So I think talking with other people and sports psychs, we've done a lot of work on controlling the controllables. I mean, there was a time going into, we'll go last year, going into the draft, and then this year free agency. Like, it's pro sports. There's going to be some things that are out of our hands, and then I think that's just a good mantra for anyone to live by. Is just control the controllables. We can only control what we put on the ice, how we deal with things too. Okay, you get feedback from a coach. How are you going to deal with that? That's something you can control. Or like you said, you miss a shot. Again, we want perfection. Okay, how are you going to deal with that? And again, working with mental health professionals, sports psych, this has truly made, I think, everyone realize that we're not going to be perfect. We're humans. Yeah, we play an elite level sport. We love the fans. We love what we do. We're competitors. But we're human. We can't be perfect every day. So I think being able to work on how to control those controllables, how to sort of, some days it's nice to sort of just talk with friends, do something just with your friends. So I think really, it really does take a culture, a village, all of the resources, to make us into the elite athletes that we are today. And I don't think I would be where I am today if I didn't have sort of those struggles and those building blocks leading up to this moment right now.
Yeah, it's all those struggles, all those fall downs, pick yourself back up, that helps define who you are as a person, and that doesn't have to just be on the ice, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Speaking, this is I think a great segue into, role models, right? You've shared a lot of really, really great advice, and I think what's been interesting to hear is that advice isn't just for elite athletes. Like that, I'm not an elite athlete, but what you shared with me is absolutely something that I can apply to my own life, just in general, right? And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people growing up, and even right now. Who were some of those, or who are some of those role models, some of those influences that you had, that really inspired you and really helped? Maybe they were your North Star. Maybe this is, that's the level of greatness I want to achieve. And that doesn't necessarily mean goals. That doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
mean like assists or points, but just as a person. Who were some of those people for you?
Yeah, well, to start off, my dad was the first one I ever saw playing hockey, didn't even really know what it was. So obviously he's a role model there, turned me into a forward, loved it. Uh, thankfully he said no to goalie, so um, definitely a role model for me there. Again, I mean, even it goes back to my father. You can see it, you can be it. I wanted to be like him, so he's definitely a role model for me. And then if we go back to sort of a female in hockey, I think it was in 2005. I went to a Chevrolet camp here in St. Catharines with Bobby Orr and Cassie Campbell Pascal. So 2005. So I think I was 6, and I think it was me and another young girl in a school full of boys. It was like a week-long hockey camp, but I remember seeing her, and she was the first woman I've ever, like, I've seen little girls play hockey. They were on some of my teams, but that was the first woman who I saw playing hockey at a high level. I was like, "Oh, she's on Team Canada." Like, that's so cool. And I remember telling people, I don't know why I told people, maybe so I can make it true. I don't know, manifest it. But I was like, I'm gonna play for Team Canada one day, just watch. So she was the first person that I saw as a female playing at an elite level, and she took the time to talk to me and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. And now I think it's funny, everything coming full circle, that she's on the board with us, and I see her around, and I have this like little picture of me with her. I've like this bandana on, with Cassie, and somehow my little sister got in the picture. She wasn't even in the camp, but we're in her lap, and I'm so happy. Because again, if I, like, with my dad and with everything with the PWHL going on right now, back then I saw it. I saw someone playing on Team Canada, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. So I'll never forget. I know what arena it was at, what pad it was at. I was like, okay, like, I want to do this. So yeah.
So that's a fantastic story, and I love that it truly, like you said, it's gone full circle, because now she's on the board, right? So
Yeah, like, I see her walking around, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like, I remember you. Like, I think I was 6, and yeah, it's just crazy how everything comes full circle in the hockey world.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, you'd mentioned something about like seeing, essentially seeing is believing, right? So
Yeah.
when you think about that, and you think about the fact that now you're entering into your second season, the second season of the PWHL, and as well as with the PWHPA, and your collegiate career, and all of the other accomplishments that you've had, what does it mean to maybe look back and say, like, I'm also a role model for the next generation of women's hockey, right? What does that mean to you to be in that position, where you're a role model as well? Like, you looked up to these other players, you looked up, all these different things, but now you're also being looked up to. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really sunk in yet. I just think I'm a regular, like, everyday gal who just plays hockey. But there are some instances where it's people come up to you and it's like, "Hey, are you?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, like, this is like, this is real." And I'm kind of speechless like that, because sometimes it is a shock. I'm like, "Oh, like, you know who I am?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah." Um, but truly, it means the world, because, again, like the story I said with Cassie, but even when I was younger, I wanted to play on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I wanted to play in the NHL because that's all I could see on TV. Like, I remember Saturday night, like, I knew my dad and we were watching the Leafs at 7 p.m. on CBC. Like, that's what we were doing. And then, like, we'd go downstairs and play ball hockey. Again, like I mentioned, I was the ball hockey goalie. I was always the goalie. But that's what I knew what we were doing on Saturday, was watching the Leafs. And that's what I saw. So I was like, I want to play in the NHL. Obviously not possible. But it's amazing for these girls just to be able to come home on a Friday, Saturday night, and just to be able to turn on uh TSN, Sportsnet, CBC, whatever the platform may be, just to be able to turn it on and watch us. And I remember when I was younger wanting to, if I wanted to watch a female hockey game, I'd have to maybe try to find it on my laptop, like a stream somewhere. But now I think the accessibility on the TV, the media, it's amazing. Girls are truly being able to see it at an easy expense. Like, you go on the TV, turn it on, and honestly, if I was younger now, I would have the utmost dream to play in the PWHL, because that's what I would be able to see. So it means the world to us.
And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their diets and health so they can perform their best both on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is available now. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, learn more and sign up at melissabuffunos.com/course. That's melissabuffunos.com/course, and make sure to use code Rinkside to save $50 off the regular price. Thank you to Melissa Buffunos for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show. I appreciate your humble answer, but knowing that there are, especially, and I know that you've experienced it from the opponent's end of it, but you will soon experience it from the home side of things here in Ottawa. There is a passion that I have never experienced in all of my years of attending sporting events. There's nothing like it. And I just think that, when you look up into the stands, I mean, I'm going to throw it to you. Like, what does it mean? And again, obviously, like, you started your PWHL career in, your hometown, essentially. Being able to look up in those stands and to be able to see those signs and to be able to see, the enthusiasm, the passion. And, truthfully, it goes beyond just young girls. It's young boys, and it's a lot of different people. And I think that's something that's really important as well. There's just like this, I know we're jumping a little bit ahead because now we're just talking about the PWHL, but it must just feel really, kind of bringing this back to being one of those role models, being one of, you're a founding member of the inaugural season of the PWHL. Has that sunk in? And when you look up in the stands, has that also sunk in to see those signs, to see that passion? Has it sunk in yet?
See, when you said that there, like, I giggled because I don't, even a year out now, I don't think it truly has sunk in. I think I do remember, though, being able to say, like, telling my parents, like, hey, one day I'm going to be able to tell my kids or my grandkids, like, hey, your mom was, well, I'm fortunate enough to be able to play in that first game. So your mom was part of the first game, and that, you know what, I think maybe in a couple years it'll truly sink in. But like, it's super special. And like you mentioned there, it's not just little girls with signs. There's little boys, and that's something I never would have imagined. Like, the fan base across the league is just amazing, so diverse. Like, there's signs for things to do with Taylor Swift. That was a big thing for me. Like, bracelets, like switch for a pot. Like, we never had that. And rock paper I remember doing actually, it was in Ottawa. I was doing rock paper scissors with a fan as a Toronto player in Ottawa, and I was like, I mean, it was cool for that little girl. That was cool for me. Like, I love that. So I think just having the fans, and I think we sold out Scotiabank last year in like 12 minutes. It was something crazy. And I remember we were saying, holy crap. If you build it, they will come. And I remember for that Scotiabank game, my dad texted me and was like, "Hey, do we get comps for this game? Because it's sold out. I don't think I can come." And that's just how passionate and crazy the fans are, and it's just so good to see. And I will say, as a visiting team playing at the TD Place in Ottawa, the fans are amazing. It was just a sea of red. A sea of red. I think you guys had a DJ maybe one game. It was awesome. So I would say that's definitely one thing I'm looking forward to coming to Ottawa is the super passionate fans and just the community that revolves around women's hockey there. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Oh, I can't wait. We're going to talk about Ottawa specifically in just a moment because that's something that I know I've been dying to hear about from you. And for the listeners out there, Vasco still has a giant smile on her face thinking about coming to Ottawa. So I love to see this. I love to see this. There are a couple of things, and you kind of mentioned it as well. There are a couple of things let's talk about before we get there, which is the community. Right?
Yep.
So the community goes beyond just the stands. The community goes beyond just the rink. What does it mean to you, especially as you're starting to see, or you've seen how important women's hockey is? You know, you've seen it. You've seen it your entire career. You knew it was something, but it was just a matter of getting the fans, getting exposure, and now it's there, right? And we saw the reception. What does it mean to you to have that connection to the community, to be able to, speak directly with, you shared the example of rock, paper, scissors, but what does it mean to you to actually be able to connect with the community? And we're going to talk more broadly, not specific to Ottawa, because
Yeah.
I don't want, we're going to get to that in just a moment, but just more broadly, what does it mean to you to have that connection with the community and to have been embraced by the community, but also you're giving back to them? I want to make that clear as well.
I think it goes back to what I said a little bit before. Yes, we're elite athletes, but we're also people. Like, we're human. So I think creating this bond with the community just shows us that we're everyday people. We love having conversation. We love laughing. We have quirky hobbies. We're all individually different, and I think sort of creating that bond with the community is just how you gel with them. And I think sort of expressing your personality, them getting to know you, you getting to know them. Honestly, you can sort of tailor to your needs. Like, I knew sometimes in Toronto, like, there was a video our admin posted about Taylor Swift, and I saw Taylor Swift signs. Like, that was just something personal about me that no one really knew about. But then you created that connection with the fans, and they're like, "Oh, Vasco made a big thing about Taylor Swift," so they were able to jump sort of on that bandwagon. That was so awesome to see. And then I think getting involved with the community as well. If it wasn't for the St. Catharines community, all like the minor hockey here, the arenas that would sometimes let us in there, if, like, just to skate, I wouldn't be where I am today. I started playing house league for the St. Catharines Kiwanis. I think it still exists, but that was the first time I ever stepped on the ice. And then I started with the St. Catharines Chaos. Again, it gave me opportunity to show my skills. That's when we started traveling all over Ontario. That's when I started playing rep hockey, was for St. Catharines. And that's when that sort of sparked my dream. So yeah, I really think it's important to give back. And I will say there was an experience we had with the PWHL Toronto, with the community. We invited the Canadian blind hockey team to come out with us. And I will say that was one of the most amazing experiences I ever had. I mean, they were happy to be out with us, but we were absolutely in awe of what they could do out there. The goalies were tracking the puck. It was amazing. We were playing the games with them, and it was a bit of a larger puck, and it had a rattle inside. But they were stick handling, controlling the puck, and they were so grateful to come out to our environment, be a part of our community, us be a part of their community, and we were just so amazed they could come on the ice with us. We had no idea about the sport. They brought us into their environment. And I think that is a collaboration that, yeah, I'll never forget. We were amazed at what they could do.
And I think that highlights something that's really important. And I think it's that what's one of the greatest things about sports is that it connects people, but
Exactly.
it also affords you the opportunity. Like, it isn't just like everyone's like, oh, cool, like this major team is coming and hanging out with us. And like, that's fine. But it's actually what people don't realize is like you walked away from that experience with at least the same amount of reward as they received, if not probably more.
100% more.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I think that's something that maybe people don't appreciate as much as they should, is that, you're just because you're an athlete doesn't mean that, these experiences don't resonate with you and stay with you throughout your career and really help, I think, define you, obviously, probably subsequently as a player, but as a person. Is that fair to say?
Super fair. Yeah. I all of us were amazed. And that just gives you a huge new perspective, not even on the game, but in life as well. Like, if they can do this, and it was at an elite level. It was the Canadian blind hockey. Like, you can do anything. So
Yeah. Um, and speaking of St. Catharines, you were recently named St. Catharines Athlete of the Year. What does it mean to you? I hesitate to highlight these awards because I know that, especially as a hockey player, as an athlete, it's about the team and it's about everyone involved, and there's a lot of people that go into getting you to where you are. But I think it's really important, especially because this is a community award. So perfect time to talk about something like this is, what it means to you to have been awarded this honor from your hometown.
yeah. Obviously such an amazing honor. And to begin with, I was completely shocked. I received something in the mail. I think I thought it was like a package for my dad or something. And I opened it and it was from the mayor, and it said that I won St. Catharines Athlete of the Year. And I was honestly, like, I was looking for the word like female athlete of the year, just but no, it was athlete of the year. Um and it's an honor because there's a lot of great athletes in St. Catharines. And again, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't without my community. I mean, yes, I've branched off, but I started here. I started skating here. I started playing rep hockey here. I found my love for the sport here. And like I mentioned, I come from a pretty heavy hockey family. We have a background in that, and my great uncle is actually in that Hall of Fame as well, I believe, for hockey and lacrosse. So to be able to have my name in there alongside with his, that's a pretty special honor. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that this brings it back. I'm a big family guy, so that's why I
Yeah.
love asking that question, and I love that in this case it ties right back to that. So it's great.
Yeah.
It must just feel absolutely incredible. Obviously, again, like I said, like there's a lot of people that go into getting you to where you are, but it's also great to be able to celebrate where you are and who you've become, and know that you're right alongside him. That just must be, I feel like that must be, when we talk about pinch me moments, that must be another one of those pinch me moments.
Yeah. No, it was definitely special. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there. We were actually playing Minnesota in the playoffs when the ceremony was happening, but my parents were super proud and super pumped to go up there on my behalf. They were smiling for photos, and they were sending me the photos, and they were like, look at us, like, and I was so happy for them. I was like, "Okay, you receive it, like, you got it." And I had
Yeah.
no worries.
And it's great too, because in that moment, it's also like they get a chance, when we talked earlier about the
Yeah.
investment, time and financial investment that they put in, it's actually kind of nice that, I mean, truthfully, you weren't there, that they actually got that chance to be like, the photos were taken of them, and it was almost like they were being celebrated in that moment, because again, like we've said, you wouldn't be where you are today without your family. So
Yeah,
that's great.
exactly. I think it honestly, it was a perfect wrap up for the year. It came full circle. Again, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't without them, and they got they got their trophy, they got their pictures, and honestly, they deserved it. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. And let's skip forward now to the PWHL. Let's talk about, you were drafted by your hometown. What was that moment, or essentially your hometown?
Yeah.
Hometown adjacent. So what was it like to hear your name called? Let's just start with that. What was it like to hear your name called into the PWHL?
To hear my name called was a blur, honestly. Like, to start off the day was great. The first draft, so we really didn't know what to expect, but it was really well put on. There was a purple carpet, there were girls getting our autographs. Like, it was an awesome day. And then to hear my name called, honestly, it was a blur. Like, you sort of like black out a bit, and then I just remember hearing my mom go like, "Oh my gosh, it's Toronto! We can take the GO train." Um, so that was yeah, big GO train fans over here. Um, but it was definitely a pretty emotional day. Like, I hugged my parents, and we were all crying. And I think too, I sort of, it's a blur because everything comes to that moment right there. You walk on the stage, you get your picture taken, and then you're in the back doing all the logistics that you have to do, and sort of it hits you all at once. It's like, holy crap! Uh, I, like, to be frank, like, I finally did it. We finally did it. This is gonna happen, and then to be able to have my family there and share it with them, and to go out after and take the GO train home. It was a pretty special day. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you should be sponsored by the Go Train.
Yeah.
Um, so um, I want to know, and we're about to get into Ottawa, but what were some of the biggest takeaways for you from your first season in the PWHL, especially playing for Toronto, which started out, there were some bumps along the road, but did they come on strong? Obviously, the season didn't end the way that you would have wanted it to, but they came on strong in the, arguably a little bit more than the second half of the season. But what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned about yourself as well as you as a hockey player?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest takeaways from year one was ultimately how to be a pro, how to be a professional. Like I mentioned, I only played 1 year in the PWHPA, and then I played 5 years at Mercyhurst, just because of the COVID year with the eligibility. So still a little fresh out of college, and I think coming out of college, you're jumping from class to class, workout, skate, social life. It's sort of love college, but it's college. It's crazy busy. So I think coming into the pros and how professional it is, how elite it is, how the play on the ice is, you really learn to prioritize your rest, your recovery, how to manage your energy. Like, hey, sorry, like, I can't go out for dinner tonight. Like, I have a game tomorrow. Or I have a game in 2 days. Like, I need to get treatment on my legs or something. And you learn to utilize the resources that you now have. And I think becoming a pro also is how you approach things, your game day routine, how you again prioritize how to reserve your energy, how you interact with people, how you have tough conversations with people, because now we're in the pros. You need to have those tough conversations, whether it's with a line mate, a teammate, staff, family members. Sometimes they give you stuff that you don't want to hear, but it's true. And I think taking that, being a pro, you realize that, okay, it's constructive. They want the best for me. So it's how are you going to take that and use it to your advantage, spin it so you can use it to the best of your abilities. So I think transitioning from college to year one was, yeah, definitely how to carry yourself and how to be a pro ultimately.
Yeah, and I think, that's a great segue into, this next step. You started with Toronto last season. Now you've joined, the Ottawa Charge. I'll say, first of all, welcome to the nation's capital soon. You're gonna love it here. I promise. You're gonna love it here. Could you maybe walk us through, like, the first year you were drafted, this year you experienced free agency. Could you talk about what free agency? You don't obviously want to be mindful of the process and respectful of that, but could you talk as much as you could about what that process felt like for you? What was it like to be able to explore different options? What was free agency like for Alexa Vasko? What was that process like for you?
Well, I will say, it was super new. Like it was new to all of us. This being the first year for the league, sort of free agency hit, and we didn't know really what to expect. Honestly, again, we've never dealt with this, but this is pro sports. This is going to happen, and ultimately, this is what we wanted, right? So I think free agency at first was a little bit like nerve wracking and a shock because again, we didn't really know what to expect, and we never dealt with it before. But I think it was something that we really embraced, right? Because again, this is pro sports. Okay, this is kind of cool, like free agency. It was just sort of like a neat concept, honestly, because this is what we fought for and this is what we wanted. And then sort of when I was in talks with Ottawa, like I'm very very familiar with the city. I'm familiar with girls on the team just from either college, the national team, and you just know I have a lot of friends on the team and I know their personalities and how they work on the ice. So I knew already they had a great culture there. And I've heard great things about the coaching staff. So I think sort of weighing all my options there, I knew, okay, I think this is the place to be. And I had sort of, when I was in those conversations, I was excited to potentially be a part of Ottawa. So I was like, okay, if I'm already excited, like, let's do this. So yeah, I'm super, super excited to be a part of the community. Like you said, the fans, I mean, being an away fan or being an away player, sorry, the fans were insane. So I can't even imagine actually being on the team. So yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I was gonna ask you what you're most looking forward to, but I think you summed it up pretty well there. So
Yeah, the
I
fans.
yeah, the fans, yeah, it's I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Best sporting experience I've ever had, and I've been to NHL, NBA, MLB games, soccer games, all these sorts of things. Nothing comes close to being a fan of women's hockey here in Ottawa. So you'll be welcomed, and it's going to be an incredible experience for you. I wanted to know as well, for fans who maybe didn't have a chance to see you play for Toronto, what do you think you're going to bring to the Ottawa team, the Ottawa Charge?
Yeah. I don't like talking about myself.
Put you on the
No,
spot here. I love it.
no, it's okay. I would say I'm definitely a competitor. I mean, I like to compete. I like to win. I'm intense. Whether that's practice or games. I play a pretty fast and physical game. I'm not afraid to mix it up out there. But I mean, yes, I'm all that intense and competitive, but I like to have a lot of fun. I like to, like, I don't know, I'm goofy. Like, I like to have fun, and I think for me, if you can't have fun and sort of enjoy the process along the way, um, it's not really worth it. So I think enjoying it and having fun while also being a lead at your craft and being intense and uh, loving to compete. I mean, I think that's the perfect mesh. So yeah, that's sort of my personality.
Perfect. And I can't wait for fans to see you in the new Ottawa Charge jersey and out on the ice signing, maybe doing some rock paper scissors, but now for the hometown fans, it's going to be great. It's going to be a fantastic time.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I haven't even seen the jerseys, so
Yeah.
I
We're all waiting on bated breath at this point to see what that's
I
going to
mean,
look like.
I'm so excited. So I
Yeah.
can't wait for those to officially drop.
Yeah, and then it's gonna I think at that moment, certainly from a fan's perspective, but also must be from a player perspective, like, it's one thing to have this league and to see the reception or to feel the reception as well, but the last big step, the last big hurdle were names and jerseys. And now you're actually going to be able to put on your, like, the official jersey rather than nothing to knock the PWHL blank,
Yeah.
but to actually have a logo. It must feel, do you feel like it's like, I know it's still going to be a pinch me moment, it's still going to be like, is this all still real, or where, all those sorts of things, but do you think that's going to really help to solidify it now that you can actually put on this is your jersey?
Yeah, I mean, I would say last year, like again, last year was a huge pinch me moment. Even being branded under the PWHL Toronto, PWHL Ottawa. Again, it was a super surreal moment. But I think having the official branding of for myself, the Ottawa Charge, I think that's the final stamp of approval there. We have the charge. I mean, I don't know if we're I mean, maybe a mascot's the next step. I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping ahead of myself. But yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's the final stamp of approval, but I think it's a huge step in women's hockey. And I mean, now we can say we're a part of the charge. We have our own identity, and I think we could really rally around that, us and the fans.
I was just going to say the fans as well. Yes, absolutely. They're going to love that.
Yeah.
They're going to be charged up. I always say that, and it makes me feel ridiculous. So we are going to, as we wrap up this episode, I always like to end with it's a working title, but it's 20 questions, but not 20 questions. It doesn't really quite roll off the tongue as well as I would like it
That's
to, but
okay.
thank you. I appreciate that. But basically, these are just some random questions that we can just ask to just even further our, get to know Alexa Vasko. Are you ready? These are scientifically proven to really get to know Alexa Vasko. So are you ready to take these?
Do I have to answer these fast or like
No, no,
is it
no, no.
rapid fire?
No, you can answer them
Okay.
as rapid fire or as extensively as you would like to.
Okay.
Trust me, the crack team here at the Rinkside Rundown put a lot of work into these questions.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
good. Okay. So we are going to start off with, from this past season, what are you most proud of? Or what is something that you are most proud of? It doesn't have to be the one thing, but as long as it is something you're proud of.
Honestly, I'll start off the entire season. I just think you mentioned it back before we were a part of the inaugural PWHL season. I think that's something, I mean, if it doesn't sink in now, that is something to look back on in a couple years, like, holy cow, we were a part of it. We made history. So there's that. And I think a specific moment last year was, for me personally, the Scotiabank game. That was insane. I remember taking a face off, and I think I was trying to call something and there was no point in doing it because you couldn't hear each other. But just seeing everyone decked out in blue, and then we were playing Montreal. There was a huge crowd of Montreal fans too. That was another pinch me moment. Again, sold out in under 12 minutes. So that is something I'm super proud of. us and everyone behind the scenes, we got that together. So that was amazing.
I love that. And just so you know, my goal is to ask the fewest follow-up questions here as possible. So
Got it.
I'm guilty at asking a lot of follow-up questions, but I'll do my best to reserve those. So I do want to know, and I think this is going to be, you've touched on a few things throughout this conversation, but I think it's great to kind of highlight, maybe some advice that you have for, girls aspiring to, play hockey, and especially at, hockey now that it's beyond, you don't just have, it's collegiate and then you have to go overseas typically, right? Or you
Yep.
would just wait for the national team, those sorts of things. There's a professional league. What advice do you have for young girls who are aspiring to play hockey at a high level?
Yeah. Um, Again, it's a little bit of a cliche, but um, if if you have a dream, go chase it. I mean, back back when I was younger, like I said, when I saw Cassie at the rink, I knew right then on rink 4 of the 4 pad in St. Catharines, I knew right then that I wanted to be a female hockey player. What that looked like to me at that point with the hockey landscape, I had no idea. I just knew that I wanted to do that. So I think right there for my dream being sparked, that's something I wanted to pursue. I made things in my basement to stick handle around. I was always outside shooting pucks because I wanted to be like Cassie and I wanted to be like the girls on our team. And there was times where sometimes the boys would like say I'm a tomboy or something, or you'll never play in the NHL. But you know what? I truly did think that something like that was going to happen. And like I said, I liked to beat the boys. I like to prove them wrong. So even if there are naysayers, but you have a dream, just I almost swore, just go for it. Like just honestly, you have nothing to lose, and um, you'll regret it if you don't go chasing it. So that's I would say that's one of my biggest takeaways from growing up.
Yeah, and just for the record, you showed them, you proved them wrong. So good for you, those boys. Um, so what does the off season? I know I asked this question knowing there's not really an off season for athletes, but what does a quote unquote off season look like for Alexa Vasco, and how has that changed maybe, through your collegiate career
Yeah,
and now into the PWHL?
yeah. So when I was younger, in college and sort of in junior hockey, I was hockey, hockey, hockey all the time. My off season was not very long. I just loved the game, and I think getting older and again getting more professional in the professional ranks, I have really prioritized sort of getting away from the sport a little bit and prioritizing rest, both mentally and physically. Because honestly, sometimes you can get a little burnt out physically and mentally, whether that's like you're injured or you're just tired or just mentally need to get away from the sport. So I think definitely evolving from when I was younger, there's a lot more deliberate rest and sort of getting away from the game. So yeah, I was a huge like I was just always in the gym, and I think getting older, you realize, okay, I actually need to get away for a little bit. Um, so that's changed over the years, but I would say a normal off season, I mean, it was shorter in college because you go back in August. But I mean now, I like to do a lot of things outside. I like being active. I like golfing, going for hikes. I go up north with my friends, like hanging out with friends. I like being social. I read a lot. So yeah, sort of relaxing. Yeah, I still do all that now, but don't get me wrong, we're still we're still training a lot. That just gets pushed back to later in the day, whether when I do some of this stuff. So yeah, but I've definitely learned how to sort of take a little bit more deliberate rest. Yeah.
I think that's something most of us could live by for sure. That's especially these days. What is your go-to pregame meal?
So I'm gonna be made fun of for this because it's so bland, but it's what sits with my stomach. I'm not a picky eater, but I think just being active and so I just have plain pasta. It sounds so bad. Plain pasta with butter and Parmesan cheese with chicken and like a vegetable or something. Like I remember in college, we would always have red marinara sauce. Like that is something I had for like 5 years straight for game day. I cannot have that anymore. I think I just have an aversion to that. So plain pasta, butter, Parmesan cheese, a protein. That's it.
I mean, that sounds perfectly fine for me. Nice and simple, nothing crazy. So
Nice and bland.
yeah, nice and bland, nice and bland. During the season, this past season with Toronto, who owned the dressing room music, and what do you remember being played the most?
So easy. Okay, so that was Emma Maltez was on the Aux.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We're great friends. We're great buddies. And I would sometimes like tell her what songs to put on. So, we definitely did a lot of throwbacks. We were big, like, I like a lot of throwbacks too, like 2000s. Definitely a lot of that. Taylor Swift's new album, that was always one of them. And then, yeah, honestly, I would say a lot of throwbacks, like, oh my gosh. Yeah, like Nickelback or something. I don't know.
Nice. Okay, good. Yeah. I like this. I like a good throwback.
Yeah.
And speaking, and you had mentioned it there just a moment ago, but as someone who often would at least occasionally make some suggestions as to what to add to the playlist, if you had to choose one song to play for the rest of your life, what would it be? With the caveat being that it doesn't have to play all the time. It's just that if you're like, oh, I'm looking for some music to play, it has to be this song. And I'll give you a couple of options. So if you're like, I don't have one particular song, I'll grant you that. I'll let you have a couple if you need it.
Okay. So yeah.
And no judgment, I promise. No judgment.
Okay. When I'm going to like the gym or like a game or something, I like to listen to throwbacks. I don't know. So I would say it's okay. So if I want like chill music or something, I'm a big fan of Noah Kahan. I don't know if you know him. I like his music. I could listen to any of his songs, just sort of on shuffle. But if there was one song, okay, I think it would be Best Love Song by T-Pain. It's really, really old, but it just reminds me of like college, and I love it so much. So yeah, Best Love Song. Yeah, Best Love Song featuring, I think it's featuring Chris Brown by T-Pain. I just love it.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was absolutely not expecting that answer. Especially, I mean, I should have, because you've enjoyed throwbacks, but with like Taylor Swift, Noah Kahan, like that is a big. I've not heard that song, but I feel like, at least it being T-Pain, that is a huge swing in the other direction in terms of. That is
a huge swing, but that just fits with me.
Like, no, I love it. It's a great answer.
Yeah.
The last couple of questions for you. What's something that remains on your bucket list? And that can be personal, that can be professional. What remains left on your, or what's something that remains on your bucket list?
Okay, so I think an answer here could be going to Greece. That's a personal one. I've always wanted to go to Greece. But then I think I want to win the Walter Cup so bad. Like, I want to bring a championship back to Ottawa. Like, that is, I mean, losing last year was terrible. Like, it was, honestly, it sucked. It was heart-wrenching. So, yes, go to Greece and win the Walter Cup.
So what's great is so first of all, that answer absolutely endeared you even more so to Ottawa fans. So that was a good choice there. You could start off by winning the Walter Cup and bringing it back to Ottawa, and then cap it off by a nice trip to Greece. That sounds like a perfect time to me, if you ask me.
You know what? That sounds like a perfect off season. That's what that sounds like to me.
Absolutely. Okay, final question for you. What is something that motivates and inspires you, either or, personally and professionally?
Um, I think both personally and professionally, I just want to be the best version of myself, whether that's the best athlete, the best player, the best sister, the best daughter, the best partner. Like, I want to be the best version of myself to whoever I give myself to, the best that I can be. So I think that motivates myself to strive for excellence in my personal life, my professional life, academic life, if I choose to pursue that afterwards. I just want to be the best that I can personally be, not what others expect me to be, just what I can accomplish. So yeah.
That's a perfect way to end this conversation. And Alexa, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your off season. Obviously, going from Toronto now to Ottawa, making that transition, workouts, all these different things, to hang out with me today means everything. So thank you so much for this. Good luck in this upcoming season. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to connect with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I hope Ottawa has lots of pasta for me, pasta and butter.
Yes, check out Del Moro's. I'll let you know more about it, but it's my favorite pasta place in Ottawa.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna need it. So,
Yeah, I'll share that with you. But thank you once again, and for Alexa Vasko, I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been Rinkside Rundown. Cheers.